Yeah. Try follow that up. Well done, Nick. That was great. Mate, I thought your blurb on Iris was great. I love a chick flick. They're great, and I'll cry at that. So, how are you all going? Are we good today? Yes, good. My name is Lachie, if we haven't met, and hello to everybody online as well. This is going to be fun. If you don't know me, I help out here with the young adults. I play drums every now and again, and I've been on the youth team I was on the youth team for a long time. So I have been a part of this church for as long as I can remember. We came when we were 9. I've loved this place ever since. And today, I get to talk about how young people navigate their emotional world. Wow, how's that, hey? That's quite intense, isn't it? When I left school, I didn't really know what to do. I was more at school for the social side of things. I was a bit of a larrikin, which didn't actually work out that well because Mum worked at school. So before I got in trouble, but before I knew about it, my mum knew about it. So I'd always come down to her office and she'd be like, really? What'd you do today? And then Matt King worked there as well, and I'd always get told off by Matt. So, I went to school and I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I left school. You can't really do much with an ATAR of 38 or something, can you? So, sorry, Mum. School fees went a long way. So I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, and I was like, flip. So I tried a whole bunch of different things that I found just weren't really me. Like I did an apprenticeship as a sign writer. I hung those stickers up on the wall there. They're still there. Yeah, did pretty well for myself there. 38 ATAR. Anywho's, so I did a whole bunch of stuff, and I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and I figured out, I was like, look, I'm pretty good with people, I like to think. I've got good relationship skills, so went down to TAFE, just down the road, and I really wanted to study youth work, and coincidentally enough, to sum it up, I enrolled in the wrong course. I don't understand how you enroll in a wrong course at TAFE. I don't understand how that happens. There's so many of them. But I enrolled at a course called Community Services. It's not even close to youth work. I don't know how that happened, but I was like, bang, we'll do that. But it's actually kind of funny because that qualified me in 3 different things, which was youth work, aged care, and disability. So I knew what I was doing, Bron, with the wrong one. So I've worked for a whole bunch of different companies. I'm only 26 and I've worked at a few different places. So first of all, I started at Handicare, which is a place that specialises in disabilities with young people. And then while working there, I was at a second job at a place called the Lotus Project, which was the same thing. And then after that, I got married and I sort of wanted some full-time security stuff. So I moved to Navita, which specialised in disabilities with adults and stuff as well. So managing their emotions and everything like that. And this is funny. While I was there, I don't know why, but I started this rumour at youth that I worked at Trinity. I don't know why. I told people I was an English teacher. And so many kids were like, I go to Trinity, you're not there. I'm like, no, I'm an English teacher at Trinity. You see. And anyway, so now I work at Trinity as the youth worker there. But it was very funny because Katie Jenkins, I don't know if she's here, but she saw me in my work polo. And she was like, what the heck? I said, I told you, I've worked at Trinity for ages. I'm the English teacher here. So I was like, yes, the joke came full circle. So I was really stoked with that. But yeah, I've had a few different jobs in the industry and I love it. It's so much fun. I just get to hang out with people all day long and chat and do all these things. And when working at Navita, I just got to go hang out all day long, go to the pool, get paid to go swimming. And now working at Trinity, I get paid to kick footy. So it's actually really good. But no, there is a lot of emotional stuff that goes along with that. My first shift ever wasn't at Toys R Us, but I worked at Handicare for my first shift and I was really nervous because I was like, I've never actually done this properly. When you study and stuff, you feel like you know it, but then when you're in the real deal, you're like, all right, I actually had to care for this young fella by myself, so we're going to figure it out. Anyway, so I didn't really get much of a handover, so I wasn't really sure what I was doing, and I spoke to Charlotte actually, and I was like, what should I do? And we spoke about just taking him out for the day, and I did this whole plan where we'll go to the movies, we'll go to the cinema, I had him for like 6 hours or something, and then we'll go to the city and have lunch and stuff. Anyway, so we went there, did all that, everything was running smooth, and I will never ever return to Toys R Us again after this story. So we went to Toys R Us, and I was like, look, we've got time to kill, this is fine, and everything's going well, until I said we had to go. And I was like, come on, mate, it's time to go. And the amount of emotions that this young kid showed me in that time, whoo-wee, goodness me. So we started off with, I wrote him down actually. He was sad because he didn't want to leave. He loved Toys R Us so much and he was sussing all these toys and stuff like that. And then the one emotion that freaked me out was he got angry. And that emotion there resulted in a Buzz Lightyear being thrown at my head. a whole bunch of different toys being thrown on my head, and it got to the place where we actually got escorted out of Toys R Us in the city by security. And I'm standing there going, what the heck have I got myself into? I'm standing there going, oh man, should have stayed signwriting. Anyway, so we're getting escorted out of the city, out of Rundle Mall, and I'm freaking out. And, all these emotions were going through my head of, what have I done? Oh man, I'm frustrated, I'm confused. What the heck's happening here? Anyway, I spoke to the parent and I said, this is what happened. And she goes, oh yeah, don't take him to Toys R Us. Thanks heaps, thanks for the heads up. So that was a great start to my working career in that field, but I've loved it ever since. That was probably the worst day I've ever had, and ever since then working with people has just been fantastic because I love it so much. So yes, so today we're going to talk about how young people navigate their emotions, and I am quite an emotional person myself. For those who know me, I will cry, especially at chick flicks, especially Iris. I'll go watch that and cry. Yeah, I'm quite an emotional person, and I didn't realise how much of an emotional person I was until January 8th, 2016. Look at me, I look like a sad wet pug. This is terrible, right? So this is not my wedding, I'd like to point out. This isn't me at my wedding being sad. This was me crying when I saw Luke get married. And I was standing there. This photo here, I've cried for about 10 minutes, and this is Luke standing at the other end of the aisle. And I'm there like, oh my gosh, what a sook. How emotional am I at my mate's wedding? And then I did the best man speech. It went on for a little bit longer, and then I'm sat at the table by myself crying. These are so bad. I asked Charlotte to send me some, and I was wetting myself in my office laughing at that because who cries at their best mate's wedding? Well, for that long too. It was an all-day thing. Charlotte told me as well that I forgot, but we all went into the car at the end, and they're all like, haha, we're all happy and married. I sat in the front seat next to the driver, and I'm there like... And he's like, good day? I'm like, yeah, it's a great day. Not even my wedding, and I'm crying like this. Like, what the heck? And we also found out Luke has emotions too that day because he was crying a lot more than me. All right, yeah. Luke cried for 2 minutes. Yeah, I wish I cried for 2 minutes. Goodness me. Get that off the stage. No, not yet. So often in my line of work, I find that young people get overcome by their emotions, don't they? All right, I clearly was that day. Well, I didn't even think I was going to cry, but here we are. But young people, especially in my line of work now, working at Trinity, they can get so crippled by their fear and their emotion and their anxiety that they almost can't do anything else. You know, my emotions in that day, I couldn't even talk to the bloke who was driving the car to the thing because I was that sad. Like, emotions overcome us, can't they? And they have that such a crippling they just cripple us in a way that we can't overcome the fear, can we? It's pretty sad to see so many young people go through it as well. A lot of kids deal with the fear of failure as well. That fear, just failing. They don't even want to try at stuff because they're scared that they'll fail before they even start. Or the fear of not being enough is a big one as well. Social media these days is absolutely killing young kids in the comparison game. They see someone on Instagram and they think, oh, I want to look like that. Or they see someone's athletic ability on Instagram and they say, well, I can't play sport like that. You know, the fear of being enough or the fear of not living up to expectations. You know, some kids at school, their parents can think, you know, you've got to be an A-grade student to succeed. Luckily, my parents were like 38 ATAR. Woo! But like, you know, you have some parents that they're like, no. Some parents have that expectation on their kid that they have to succeed, otherwise it's a fail. And the kids just can't live up to it. And that cripples them straight away before they even start, which is really sad to see. I recently did a mental health first aid day, and some of the stats in the course were quite confronting, especially when we spoke about young people and their poor mental health. And it was quite daunting to hear how young some kids really struggle with mental health from an early age. And here on the screen, I've got an average age onset of mental illness. This is just an average age, so this isn't specific to the age, but it's just sort of based out. You can see that kids suffer anxiety from an average age of 15. And when I saw that, I thought, goodness me, 15, that is so young. Like, that's such a young age to be experiencing some things. And then you've got anorexia or bulimia, and that starts as well at 18. And we found that that is something that they can control. So anxiety, sometimes you can't control your anxiety, but bulimia or anorexia, you can control what you put into your body or what you do. So they have that sense of control for the first time. Then you've got substance abuse or problems, which at 18, you're the legal age to go down to the pub and get a beer or go to the bottle-o and do whatever you want. And that age, you can sort of suppress how you're feeling with alcohol or something like that. And then you've got depression, which when you realise you've tried for so long to get all these emotions and stuff out and you still feel the same, you can feel depressed, can't you? This is quite sad because all these ages are younger than me and I'm only 26. And, you know, we go through these things where we think, oh, you just don't understand what's going in a young person's world, do you? I mean, anxiety from 15, it can start as something quite small, but will go into something big. And they can still be carrying that anxiety up until who knows how old, you know? It doesn't just stop at 15, which is pretty sad. As I said before, I'm quite an emotional person, and growing up, I was scared of everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything. These are just some of my fears growing up. Swooping season is the worst season ever in Australia. I'll go for a walk with the dog and Lily has to protect me from magpies. If I hear a bird 20 metres away, I'm like this already. It just scares me. I wasn't scared of people playing video games, but I was scared of sleepovers. It's so bizarre. I can't explain it, but I was like, I can't go to sleepovers. No, not a chance. And it's actually great because I was talking to a kid recently who at school, and he said, you're not going to understand this, but I'm scared of sleepovers. And I went, oh, let's talk about it. A 50-minute lesson just spoke about sleepovers. It was great. And then competitive running. I don't know why, but I was always so scared of competitive running. I think for me, I was scared of the expectation, not set by my parents or anybody else, but by me. I think I was quite a good runner and I ran a few good time trials and stuff like that. And I had that expectation where if I don't do that every time, I'm a failure. So that would make me not do it anymore, which is really weird. I let the fear take hold of me instead of letting peace take hold of me. And especially with the sleepovers, the anxiety of being the last person awake, I can't explain it, but that fear of being the last person awake made me feel sick. Like, it was almost to the point where I was like, I can't do it. It would make me tearful, it would make me sad, I'd just freak out and I couldn't sleep, and it was the worst thing. You'd never want to invite me to sleepovers as a kid. It was weird. And then the second fear that I had with sleepovers was that mum and dad would forget me. I'm still here, which is good. But I don't know why. I just always had that fear that they'd be like, we'll just leave him there, it's all good. I don't know why that freaked me out. But seriously, come on, Dad. Those fears really freaked me out, and it stopped me from having relationships as a kid. I didn't ever want to go to birthday parties or do anything because I'd rather hang out with mum and dad. It's bizarre. They weren't keen on that, but I was just so scared, and that fear stopped me from having relationships. It stopped me from having these stories growing up with these kids where they all had stories that they could tell and laugh about, and I was like, I was too scared to be a part of that, even though it was fine. It was really weird. I let fear rule me, and it absolutely crippled me as a young kid. Competitive running, I was doing pretty well for myself back in school, and there was this big race. It was a state race at Oakbank, and I said to my dad, I said, Dad, I'm really, really nervous. And he said, well, what's wrong? I said, I really need a wee. And he said, well, go. I said, no, I can't. I said, why? I said, I'll miss my start time. It was 2 hours away. I had so much time, but I was like, I can't do this, I can't do it. And I got to the start line, and I said to my mate, I said, I really need to go to the toilet here, like I'm really nervous. And he said, there's a shed there, just go behind the shed, you'll be fine. So I ran to the shed. Little did I know that behind the shed was everybody watching. So I'm thinking I'm hidden behind this shed, and I look around, and there's all these people just watching me do a wee behind the shed. But if I wasn't scared of that, I would have been fine. I wouldn't have built this massive fear about, oh my gosh, this race is scary and there's 150 people in this race and I'm freaking out. But I actually would have been fine, and I wouldn't have made the mistake to pee in front of everyone. Isaiah 41:10 says, fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you, I will help you, and I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. And then Joshua 1:9 says, have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened. Do not be dismayed. For the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. They're two pretty powerful verses, aren't they, about how we don't need to fear because God is with us through every situation. You know, being strong and courageous isn't an easy thing, but with God all things are possible, aren't they? That he can make us strong and courageous. He can turn someone who's so fear-ridden and anxiety-ridden and make them a strong and mighty warrior for his purpose, aren't they? You know, we give in to fear and anxiety so often now that it stops us from doing basic things, don't we? We think that the fear and the anxiety is way too high, but we also forget who is on our side. We forget who we've got with us day to day. One of my favourite stories in the Bible was when Jesus is on the boat with his disciples, and he calms the storm. And have I got it up there? No. So Matthew 8:23-27. Then he got into the boat, and his disciples followed him. Suddenly, a furious storm came up on the lake, so that the waves swept over the boat. But Jesus was sleeping. The disciples went and woke him, saying, "Lord, save us. We're going to drown." He replied, "You of little faith, why are you so afraid?" Then he got up, rebuked the winds and the waves, and it was completely calm. The men were amazed and asked, "What kind of man is this? Even the winds and the waves obey him." And I love that little bit there, that even the winds and the waves obey him. See, Jesus was doing all these crazy things in this time with his disciples, and then he just gets up and rebukes a storm. Imagine the disciples' faith then. They were freaking out, thinking that they're going to be overcome by this wave, and they're going to be overcome by this, and this boat's going to sink. And then Jesus just gets up and says, "Chill out." I don't think he actually said chill out. That might be the Message version. But, he says, just relax. Just let's calm down. And I love that one word from him changes everything. One word from God, it changes the whole situation. And how often do we forget that the same power that calmed that storm lives in us today? Not a week ago or a month ago or a year ago. He's here with us today. As we meet together, as we worship together, Jesus is here with us today. And the voice that calmed the storm is here with us today and can change the situation that you're in today as well, which is pretty important. Romans 8:11 says, and if the spirit of him who raised Jesus from the dead is living in you, he who raised Christ from the dead will also give life to your mortal bodies because of his spirit who lives in you. I love that the same power that brought Lazarus back to life is in us today. And I really want to focus this part on the young people who are here who don't actually have a grasp of that yet, who don't realise how powerful they are because of who they are. It's not something that young people have to work or strive hard to do. It's just accept Jesus and trust in him, because his power that flows into you will have a knock-on effect and overflow into your communities as well. And his powerful is still as powerful as it was back in the day. Young people need to get a grasp of it, and they need an anchor point for their lives. And that anchor point needs to be Jesus, because Jesus is the one who can transcend everything, can't he? It's amazing, and it's so crazy that the young people today, I love it. I look at when I was in the youth team and I think how good our next generation of kids are and how powerful these kids are. They just get it, and we need to pray as a church and as a body that they get how powerful they are in Jesus as well. A few years ago, we did the Gen Connect Challenge. I love that photo. So we did the Gen Connect Challenge, and that was where we based matching some of the younger people with some of the less younger people in the church to catch up and build relationships. Yeah, see what I did there? Yeah, not calling them oldies. So we met up and we, did some different stuff, and it was to build that relationship between the younger generation and the older generation to make the church stronger. For me, I was paired up with me mate Keith. Keith, he's not here today actually, which is a bit disappointing. But I was matched up with Keith, and if you know Keith, he's the biggest chatterbox I've ever met. And if you know me, I also love a chat. So the poor people who were next to us at the cafe when we would hang out, because we would just chat all the time, and seriously, it was almost a competition to see who could get in next. Like Keith would be halfway through a story and I'm like, yeah, but I did this. And then it'd be both ways, but it would be like just, competitive chatting, we like to call it. But what I loved about my relationship with Keith is that it started off as just a random, all right, mate, let's do this, Gen Connect, how are you, all that sort of thing. But now I have a relationship with Keith where if I had any problem at all, I could go to him and he could give me some advice. And I love it because, yes, I can talk to my mates about what's going on as well, but Keith has been, I was going to say been around for ages. I don't think I can say that. But Keith has been around for ages. And he has been through a lot of situations that my mates haven't been in. So he can give me that advice, that wisdom and that guidance where I can go, okay, help me here. And it's so important for the older generation to raise up this next generation together as one body, because we are one body. We're not two separate identities in this church. We are one body. We are one Hope Central, and we need to upraise each other for the next generation, don't we? Yeah, cool. Hold on, here we go. Bang. Proverbs 27:17, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. I love it. And, when I think about people in our church who have raised the next generation, one bloke that always sticks out to me is Uncle Glyn. He's not actually my uncle. I just call him Uncle Glyn because he was my kids' leader when I was in church down at Northside back in the day. And, he's still doing it today. And it's so funny, I see young kids go up to him and call him Uncle Glenn. I get a little bit jealous because I was like, hey, I started that. Me and Tony started that. But, he's been doing this for so long because he identifies that the next generation need to be raised in a way that can lead this church when he's no longer doing it. He understands it, and he still does it today, which I think is amazing because he gets that the next generation needs to be raised up as one body. It's not just the young people who figure it out. It's actually the older people who need to figure out how to do it. He mentors them, he supports them and loves them. And it's so important because this world does not want our young people to succeed at all. It would rather bury them in the ground and not get them to raise up in the way like Christ would want them to. And that's the enemy's plan too. 2 Timothy 1 verse 7. For God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power, love, and self-control. That's not right. Yep. Oh, I put in 2 different versions here. How about that? Wow. Anyway, one of the biggest stories in the Bible that I love about overcoming fear is Gideon. The story of Gideon is one where someone could have easily given in to fear and doubt just because of who he was, not because of who he was in Christ. He was nervous, he was freaking out, and in Judges 6:11-18 it says, the angel of the Lord came and sat down under the oak in Ephraim that belonged to Joash and Epizrite. I went through those names so long with Joe, and he was just like, yeah, it's like this. I'm like, no, I still can't get it. We'll go again. So I tried so hard to get them anyway. When the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon, he said, the Lord is with you, mighty warrior. I love this. Gideon goes, pardon me, my Lord, but if the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to us? Where are all his wonders that our ancestors told us about when they said, did not the Lord bring you up out of Egypt? But now the Lord has abandoned us and given us into the hands of the Midians. The Lord turned to him and said, go in the strength you have and save Israel out of the Midians' hands. Am I not sending you? So I love that part there, the strength you have. It's not God saying, all right, Gideon, we're going to do a boot camp for 3 weeks and you're going to be the mightiest warrior. It says, go in what you have. All right, I love that so much because it's not about you have to bring all these things to God to make him strong for you. God's strong enough to do whatever he wants through you. You just need to be willing. And that's what Gideon was. And Gideon again goes, pardon me, my Lord. He's very polite, Gideon, isn't he? Pardon me. But how can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest in Manasseh and I am the least in my family. The Lord answered, I will be with you and you will strike down all the Midianites, leaving none alive. See, I love that so much because like God is saying to Gideon, go. You have what you have, and Gideon is still like, I am the weakest in my family. My tribe is not big enough. I can't do this alone. And God is like, no, with me, anything is possible. And then Gideon replied, if now I have found favor in your eyes, give me a sign that it is really you talking to me. Please do not go away until I come back and bring my offering and set it before you. And the Lord said, I will wait until you return. I love that powerful promise by God to Gideon that he is more than capable to overcome the Midianites, isn't he? And it's not because Gideon was the strongest or he was tough or whatever. It was because God was with him and that made him strong and tough enough. God gave him the courage and the strength to overcome the fear and the doubt. See, if it was just Gideon, he probably would have just given in to that fear and that anxiety of, I can't do this. This is someone else's job. Pick the other warriors or something. But he didn't bow down to that fear and anxiety. He gave it to God, and God gave him the strength and the courage to defeat the Midianites, which is crazy, isn't it? Because that's not just a story from back in the day that we can go, that was nice. That can happen today. That can happen today of us going, I can't overcome this situation in my life. I'm too weak or it's too big for me. I'm telling you now, God doesn't want you to leave this building the same. He doesn't want you to go back into the world where you have all these fears and anxieties. Fear and anxiety is real. I'm not disregarding that at all. But with God, anything is possible. And he can break those bondages today. Fear is not of God. Fear is of the enemy, and the enemy wants us to give in to our fears today and our doubts, and he wants us to listen to that self-talk, which can often be quite negative, can't it? As you know, Gideon and his army of 32 Israelites defeated the army of 135,000 Midianites. It's quite the outnumber, isn't it? But with God, anything is possible. 32,000 warriors can take over 135,000, which is just ridiculous. I want to end on this today, that one word from God can change your situation. One message saying you can overcome this situation can change everything for you. God saying to Gideon, you can overcome this, you can defeat these warriors. And he did, didn't he? He said, all right, God, we'll do it. And if we know the story, you know, Gideon had this massive army, but then God cut it back. He cut it back to 32,000 people, and Gideon overcame that. Today, we are going to be praying afterwards, and I want you today, I think I've got them here. Oh, sorry. Ephesians 1:18-20. I pray that the eyes of your heart may be enlightened in order that you may know the hope to which he has called you, the riches of his glorious inheritance in his holy people, and his incomparable great power for us who believe. That power is the same as the mighty strength he exerted when he raised Christ from the dead and seated him at the right hand in the heavenly realms. I want you to realize today that the power that is in you can change everything. You know, the power that raised Lazarus up is in us today, isn't it? It's in this room and it's here with us together. We are one church body, as I said before. We're not divided into the oldies and the youngies or whatever you want to call yourself. I don't really care. But we are one body today as Hope Central. We need to be praying for each other. We need to see our young people overcome their fear and anxiety. They need to overcome this fear of depression and all these things. So I've got some questions here. What are you afraid of today? Is it a spirit of fear that lives in you? Do you need someone here? Do you know someone here who needs your help? And what are you going to do about it? See, so often we come to church with our junk. I saw this, I was listening to a guy and he was talking about we come to church with our junk and we go, man, church was great today. The worship was fantastic, which it was, by the way. Well done, Mel and the team. Worship was great. The announcements were fantastic. The sermon was great. Everything was great. But you're carrying around this junk still. And you're walking around and then you go, all right, I need prayer for this. And then you bring it to the altar and then you leave it there. And then once the prayer's done, you pick that junk up and you take it back out with you and you carry it again for a week. Today, if you're carrying around junk, we need to be praying for each other and we need to leave it here dead today. We need to leave all this fear and the anxiety and all this rubbish that we're carrying here today. We need to be praying together as one body for one another. So can I have the band up, please, and I'll pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for your power over our lives, Lord. We thank you so much that you are the same God yesterday, today, and forever, Father. And we just pray right now for bondages to be broken here today, Father, for you to touch the people, to touch their hearts, Father, that people don't leave this place the same, Lord. We thank you that you are so good to us, Father. So we pray for all these things now in your name. Amen. Cool.